Ronan Joe Genji, representing Ronan Joe Chronicles. What's good, YouTube? I'm here to review the very first episode of the new AMC mini-series, Eli Roth's The History of Horror, which I'm really enjoying so far. I watched this for a couple of days, and it's been 4 episodes so far, so I'm going to probably go down the list and talk about most of them, but this is mainly about episode 1. Episode 1 is about the examination of the zombie genre, where it started and where it's gotten to now. Because before, the zombie films were really like possession, what can I say? Like voodoo, black magic, and mad scientists on an island. So it's kind of came a long way from the silent era of what we have today in the modern era. But I really enjoyed this series because you get insight from actors, USC film scholars, other directors, other writers, and novelists that work, hand to hand in the horror film genre, which is really good. And I thought it was really cool that Eli Roth put these all together because, our horror icons and legends are leaving us left and right. And it's unfortunate, but, that's what life's all about, man. So I love that he's celebrating and, booming the horror genre and letting people know that this all came from a certain place, and there's an origin, there's a history behind it. It's not just violence for the sake of violence. These movies had meaning. And I love that, in the zombie genre of movies really was testament to use social commentary as a statement about American society and things like that. And each director, portrayed zombies in different ways. They were kind of like metaphors. In our minds, they're the villains, but it was always like the backdrop of the story. And knowing that now gives it a different insight and gives an interesting take on it. Because before, when I watched these kind of movies, it was always like, oh, this is a cool headshot. All the zombies in this are really crazy. Like, they're fast, they're slow. But I always looked at there was something else deeply going on. But that's just how American society is. We see things one way. We know what a problem is, but we choose to ignore it. Kind of like the characters in the zombie movies sometimes. Or it could be vice versa. You have people that know what's going on, but choose to defend and survive on their own, or look out for their own, as far as family and friends. They don't want to be team players. So it also shows like how people become differently during the aftermath of an outbreak. How does the world change? How do the people change? What is it like when there are no rules or no laws? And I love that because I gotta say, George Romero was the guy that basically gave the new modern zombie the rules, the regulations, and he reinvented it and he introduced it. Rest in peace to the legend, man. But they had to give tribute to him on this show, and I'm so glad that they did it. And they did it out of respect, and they did it in an amazing way. Where it's like, man, they're finally putting respect on this man's name, because George Romero really created the modern day zombie. He created the rules. He used social commentary in his movies to comment on American society. Other filmmakers and other storytellers, they picked up and they ran with it. You got to shoot them in the head, axe them, hit them in the brain. If you get bit, you turn. And, to a degree, they still have their DNA and their tissue, so they're able to function, but they're not aware of what's happening. So, they're slow, they're sluggish. Then we get to the 21st century, modern day. Now, they're fast, they're vicious, they're even more hungrier, you know what I'm saying? So it was really cool. And I like how each of his Dead films talked about different moments in American history. The first being about racism in the South, the second being about, communism in American society, being obsessed with shopping and the mall culture, not having everything. But, even when you do, you're still not happy. So he touched on a lot of things, even 9/11, things like that. And documentary filmmakers trying to make names for themselves instead of using their stories to wake people up and tell them the truth and help survive these crazy, horrific days. So everybody has a different take on what's happening, how their lives are being, how their lives are growing. And it was cool to hear insight from guys like Ernest Dickerson, Edgar Wright, Rob Zombie, Greg Nicotero, Tom Savini, even Stephen King. Man, he talked about what it was like when he first saw Night of the Living Dead in the theaters with a screening audience, and how he actually grew up through the evolution of the horror genre while contributing to horror himself with his amazing books. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was very unique because I know he has a lot of stories to tell. And it's just very fascinating that no one's ever really thought to really dissect and jump into this world like this, you know, with the geniusness of Eli Roth, making it a mini series capitalizing on the, the month and holiday of Halloween. He actually let people know that there's other things that horror, has a lot to offer and contribute to cinema. And in a lot of ways, it kind of shaped cinema. You know what I'm saying? Without horror, it wouldn't be like the big money makers. It's just like action movies. You know what I'm saying? Comic book movies. Horror plays a big factor in Hollywood and international. It's not just a Hollywood and America thing. Horror is international too. And the zombie genre is international itself now. It used to just be like a small cultural, kind of cult phenomenon thing, but it's international now. You got foreigners making zombie movies. So I just think it's interesting how we can still tell the same similar stories, but put different spins and different perspectives on it, follow brand new characters, and then focus on a specific subject with the zombie setting. Because if you ask me, it never really gets old. It's always something new about it. And then when you kind of get into the 70s, it was like a fresh new thing. It really started blowing up. And then when you get into the 80s, we started exploring more of the comedic side of the zombie genre. And then when you get to the 90s, we didn't have too much of it. But then, video games started capitalizing on what Romero had created decades ago. We got Resident Evil, Silent Hill, and stuff like that, House of the Dead, which was really big because it was more interactive, arcade game, survival horror, puzzle solving. But that kind of brought the survival horror of zombie movies and storytelling back to its true formation. And then you get to the 2000s where we get into the remake era, and then it was the first Resident Evil movie, and you had Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead in 2004, then 28 Days Later from Danny Boyle in 2002. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's crazy. And then we had the I Am Legend remake in '07. Then we had Shaun of the Dead in 2004. So zombie movies start slowly coming back, and then it took off and skyrocketed. And I'm really appreciative and grateful for that because I love zombie movies. And after watching this episode, I fully understand why I love it, because it has so much to offer. And there's so much that you can do with that simplistic story setting and, make a brand, kind of, much grander scale story out of something so simple. And a lot of horror filmmakers, John Carpenter said it best, keep it simple, but keep it fast paced, and keep it complex, but keep it simple at the same. Don't explain too much. And that's kind of what the zombie movies do. It keeps it simple and it doesn't explain too much. And it lets you know something's important when you think about it from a narrative standpoint. When it's time to give information, they'll do it. But right now, it's about the drama and the survival and the suspense of it. But yeah, I recommend watching this miniseries. The show's been on for about a couple weeks now, so they're on episode 4. But this is my review of episode 1. I highly recommend it. It's on AMC. If you have on demand, you can catch it on demand. And it's on Sunday nights around midnight. For Western audiences and Eastern time, I think it's like 8 or 9 o'clock p.m. But for us over here on the West Coast, I think it's like midnight. But they've been encoring it like crazy. So if you have AMC or any type of cable or satellite provider, you can watch it on demand on AMC. Shout outs to AMC for giving Eli Roth the chance to put this amazing miniseries / documentary series together, because I really love this. And it's been kind of getting me through the week. And this is kind of like part of my horror-thon. And stay tuned for the next one, But for now, it's lights out. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And stay tuned for more episodes, because I will be reviewing the rest of this mini-series. Peace.